For this assignment, we're going to look at one big problem about a home loan and the related payments and whether it's worth refinancing. And each part, you'll have an answer. If you don't get it correct the first time, you get a couple more tries. If you don't get it right by your third try, then I'm just going to give you the right answer, and you can use that right answer to move on. I'm just going to go over one example of some numbers on this. So for this one, I'm going to suppose that 10 years ago, you bought a home for $150,000, paying 10% as a down payment and financing the rest at 9% interest for 30 years. Your existing mortgage, this one, the one you got 10 years ago, how much money did you pay as your down payment? So let's get some information here. We have the home cost, and that is $150,000. And let's format that as currency. I have enough zeros there, good. And then we have a percent for down payment. That's going to be 10%. We have our annual percentage rate of 9%. And we have the number of years of the loan, and that's going to be 30. So let's see, how much money did you pay as your down payment? All right, so question number one, let's make a little spot for that. And let's calculate that. So I am going to put 10% down. Sometimes the requirement for a home purchase is a certain percent down. So of that 150,000, I want to know what is 10% of it. That's just a straight multiplication. So label that. So that's my down payment. And then we move along. And again, if you don't get it right on the first few tries, after the third try, you'll get that answer button, so you can use that to move on. How much money was your existing mortgage or loan for? All right, so number two, we want a house that's 150,000. We're going to put 15,000 down, so we just need to know the difference. Again, since the numbers are already there, we can just point and click. So there's going to be 135,000 that the mortgage is going to be based on. So this is the loan amount. What is your current monthly payment on your existing loan? Carry to at least 4 decimal places for the calculations, but round your final answer to the nearest cent. All right, so we're going to keep track of more decimal places than we're going to enter here. So let's figure out what that is. And we have our finance calculation formulas here. Let's blow that up just a little bit more. And we are trying to find an amortization payment here, and that's this formula, or we could use the PMT version. Since I'm in a spreadsheet, I'm going to use the PMT version. But you could use the other formula if you wish. You don't have to use a spreadsheet, but I like having all the numbers here in case I need to refer back to them. So number three, I'm trying to find the payment for the loan. And I am going to use, according to that cheat sheet, the PMT formula, which will also find the payment for an annual, an annuity investment, like a retirement account. The rate has to be the periodic rate. So that's going to be my 9%, and I'm going to divide that by 12 because I'm making monthly payments. The total number of periods, well, there's 12 months in a year for 30 years. Now, I don't already have the 12 for months on the screen, so I'm going to have to type the 12 and then multiply by the 30 up here. What is the present value? For the PMT formula, we always enter the opposite of the loan amount. And then what's the future value? We want to have a future value of 0 in 30 years. That one's optional. It assumes 0 if you don't type it. So this says my monthly payment is going to be $1,086.24. It's rounding to the nearest cent because I'm using the currency format, rounding to the nearest cent. If I wanted to see more decimal places, I could increase the number of decimals. So if you're using a calculator, you want to write down on paper more decimal places than we enter into the computer here. So here I'm going to enter for my existing mortgage payment for my version, $1,086.24. And again, the computer, even though it's only displaying, say, 2 decimal places, when it makes a calculation, it's actually storing using more numbers than I'm seeing here because I'm not saying that's the answer, I'm just displaying the answer that way. So that's one nice thing about a spreadsheet. You can display one answer, but use a more full version of the answer. All right, how much total interest will you pay over the life of the existing loan? We've answered questions like that before, so let's do that here. Number 4. So we borrowed 135,000, but we're going to make 12 times 30 or 360 payments at this amount here. Now that's going to end up being more than what we borrowed because we have interest to pay, and the difference between those two will give us the total interest paid. So again, how much total interest will you pay over the life of the existing loan? So let's calculate our total payments first. So we'll need to know that. And that's just our current payment using the spreadsheet version. If you're using a calculator version, you're going to want more decimal places than those two, times 12 months in a year times 30 years. So I'm borrowing 135,000 with this payment, 360 of these, I end up giving the bank a total of $391,046.59. And the difference in these two will give me the total interest. So total interest is just going to be equal to the total payments minus what we borrowed. The difference between the two of those is the amount of interest I paid over the life of the loan. Whew, that's a lot of money. $256,046.59. Always double check that you typed it right. Looks right. Okay, on a roll here. All right, let's see. Now, in the beginning, it said 10 years ago we got this mortgage. So this year, 10 years after you took out the loan, you check your loan balance. Only part of your payments have been going to pay down the loan. The rest has been going toward interest, right? So when you send a payment to the bank, the first thing they do is say, well, before we go and reduce your balance, you owe us some interest for this money. And they take the interest out first, and then whatever's left over goes to reduce. And there was a video earlier about how loans work where I demonstrated that's called an amortization table that calculates that. That's actually pretty easy to do. I've got a version right here I'm going to take a quick look at. So here is my balance of 135,000 for the loan, 9% for 30 years. And here's that payment we calculated earlier. Now, the bank calculates after the first month at 9% for 1 month, 1/12 of a year, the amount of interest you owe on $135,000 is $1,012.50. So when I send them this 186, they say, well, you owe us this first. That leaves only $73 to reduce your balance. So at the beginning of a loan, you're not really reducing the balance very much with each payment because you have to pay the interest that accumulates each month. You're responsible for that. That's the way loans work. So at first, you're paying a ton of interest and you're not really changing your balance much. That is the reality of it. This is an amortization table, and it's just calculation with simple interest once we know the payment, and then a couple of subtractions to make this happen. And if you want to see how to make that, then look up my video on how a loan works. All right, back here. So for question number 5, we need to figure out what my payments have done on this loan. So let's see. Read it one more time. Only part of your payments have been going to pay down the loan. The rest has been going towards interest. You see that you still have $120,000, $730. Sorry, $120,730 left to pay on your loan. Your house is now valued at $190,000. How much of the original loan have you paid off? Well, they tell us this amount, so we just need to do a subtraction for that. I'm just going to double check that amount right there. And that was covered in the book if you read it. So if I'm 10 years into the loan, that means there's 20 years left. And so what I want to see is, well, what is 20 years worth of payments give me for a present value? What does that pay off? So again, 10 years in means 20 years left. We want to see what our payments accumulate over 20 years. And so that right there would be the present value of a loan. So I'm going to use this other formula. That's just the PV version. And I just want to verify that 120 there. So this is optional. Otherwise, a subtraction is all that's needed. So I want to find the loan balance 10 years in, which means there's 20 years left. And that is the present value formula. And for the present value, we need our rate like before, which was 9% prorated over 12 months, number of periods. So in this case, I'm looking for the future 20 years. What's going on with this loan? So that would be 12 times 20. And then I want the payment amount, which was calculated number 3 here. And we have to enter that as a negative to get a positive value. And then we want the future amount to be 0, which is optional. Close parentheses. And so here's that same thing they have there, $120,730. Turns out there's a 15 cents there. And how much of the loan have you paid off? So this is what's left, right? What's remaining, what's paid off would just be the difference, I should say paid off so far, because I've made 10 payments of $1,000 each. So I've paid over $100,000 in. So that would just be the original loan amount minus what's left to pay. And I can see so far after 10 years, I've paid a little over $14,000 of the $135,000 I owed. And in their version, they had just called this number right here $120,730. So I'm going to go with their version. So I've paid off $14,270 over 10 years. Doesn't seem quite fair, huh? It's the cost of borrowing that much money. It's a heavy cost. All right. How much money have you paid to the loan company so far? All right, that was the other question I was getting at, right? Every month for the last 10 years, I've been sending them this much. And I think I don't know if I estimated that correctly in my head earlier, probably not. I said 100,000, but that may not be right. So number 6 here, we want to do 10 years of payments. And so that would just be our payment here times 12 months each year times 10 long years. Oh, I was not too far off, 130,000, I guess, to 100,000. So that's what I've paid the bank so far. So let's double check that I answer the right question. How much money have you paid the loan company so far over 10 years? All right, yeah. My payment, 12 months in a year times 10 years. Double check, my payment times 12 months a year times 10 years. Yep, looks good. So double check everything before you type it in, because if you type it wrong, you lose points. Be careful. All right, see did I get that right? $130,348.86. That looks okay to my eyes. All right, moving along. All right, how much interest have you paid so far over the last 10 years? All right, so we know what we sent the bank. We know how much went to pay off the loan. So the difference in those two must be the interest that I've paid, right? So I've sent the bank this much, my loan has only been reduced by that much. The difference has got to be what the interest is. Let's make dollars on that so it's prettier. So number 7, label 10 years of interest. And again, I've sent the bank this much money over 10 years. Only this much of it has gone to the balance of my $135,000 that I borrowed. So the difference has got to be what I've paid in interest. So far, I sent the bank 130,000, 116,000 of that went toward interest, and around 14,000 went to pay off my loan at this point in time. And if you're like shocked by these numbers, this is the reality of it. It is shocking. So is home ownership, 116,000, $78.86. See, did I answer this correctly? Oh, that's the wrong question. How much interest have you paid so far over the last 10 years? Okay, so that's how much I've paid so far in interest. Looks right. All right, next. How much equity do you have in your home? Equity is the value minus the debt. Okay, so what's my current debt? Line 5 here, this is the remaining balance after 10 years. So this right here is my debt. That's what I owe 10 years in as of now. Claim above is that current housing prices, my home that was worth $150,000 10 years ago is now worth $190,000. And, you know, over time, dollars become worth less and things appear to be worth more. So I just want to know what's the difference in those two. So number 8, it's my current equity. And the equity equals the current value minus the current debt. All right, and my current value is given to be 190, 123, double check what yours is. And I subtract from that my current debt here. And so my current equity in my home is 69,000. So like if I sold my house today and somebody paid me $190,000, I would give that to the bank, or part of it. I would give the 120,000 I still owe the bank, and the other 69,000 is mine to keep if I were to sell the house today and get that much money for it. So I have equity of $69,270. All right, double check. How much equity do you have? Equity is the value minus the debt. My value is claimed to be 190,000 minus my current debt of 120,000, and both of those numbers were given right here. So I'm just subtracting those two numbers about where I am today. And let's say I forgot to submit that one. And let's submit that one. All right, refinancing. Since interest rates have dropped, you consider refinancing your mortgage at a lower rate, 6%. A hell of a lot better than 9%. Just for fun, you know, if I look at some of this information by replacing that 9 with a 6 up here, which is not quite what I'm asked to do here, but just check this out. At 6%, my payment will go from $1,000 down to $800. I would have paid off a bit more. And let's see, let's put this payment back in there. That was what? Present value rate over 12. What else do I know? That's going to be 12 times 20 years later. And then my current payment goes in as a negative. And I would have paid off at 6% a hell of a lot more. Holy shit. That's pretty good. Oh, no, that's what the loan is worth. Okay, so well, before it was 14,000, now it's 22,000. That's kind of nice. All right, let's put that back the way it was. So again, interest rates matter. 9% is what it really should be. Those are the numbers I had earlier. All right, let's get back down. Where am I at? Question 9. All right. If you took out a new 30-year mortgage at 6% for the remaining loan balance, what would your new monthly payments be? All right. So for number 9 here, we're just going to pretty much start over with a new loan balance. So number 9, what do we got? So in number 9, I want to keep track of the current balance. I'm just going to re-put that down here. I need to know what the interest rate is. So that's my APR. And then how many years is it going to be for? Years. All right, so my current balance, I'm going to go equals. That's back here somewhere. Let's see, right here. That was number 5. So we're just going to grab that number and just re-put it down here. No, I don't want to fill down. APR, we were just given, I was given 6%. Make sure you look at yours and see what it says. And I'm told to go for another 30 years and then to calculate the payment for that. That's that PMT formula from our cheat sheet. And again, you could also use this formula right here. You could use the exponential version of it if you wishes, but I think the PMT one's easier to type. So my rate is 6% split over 12 months, comma, my period's 12 months times 30 years right here. My present value, we're going to put in as a negative, and that's the current balance of the loan. And future value is optional, but we want it to be 0. If you don't type that, it assumes it to be 0. And if you don't type the beginning or end, it assumes the payment's at the end of the month. Okay, my payment would drop down to $723. Now, just something to keep in mind there, just thinking ahead, is I currently have 20 years to go at $1,000 to pay that off, 1,086. If I extend it out another 10 years, so 30 years from now versus 20 years from now, I'm going to have a lower payment. So that payment's lower for 2 reasons. Well, let's see. I guess it's just lower for one reason. I have the 6% interest. Oh, I'm also stretching out over a longer time. If I just made that go over the 20 years like my other loan has, still a lower payment because of the 6%. But anyway, that's not what I was asked. I was to say 30-year loan. And some loans say, like, we'll give you this percent if you go 30 years, but you get a different percent if you use 15 or 20. So that's always part of the negotiation. All right. Let's see, if you took out a new 30-year mortgage at 6% on the remaining loan balance, okay, we got those things in there. What would your new payment be? All right, my payment will be $723.84. And I clicked a little too quick. I should have double checked I typed that right, but I was pretty sure. All right, how much interest will you pay over the life of the loan? We've done this thing before, so let's figure that out. Number 10. So we need to figure out what the total payments is to do this. We did this before in some homework. We did this above. We did it on the quiz. So I have this payment right here for 12 months each year for 30 years. So I'm going to pay the bank 360 payments of $723.84. That's this much money. But I owed them $120,730.15. So the difference, because I've been paying that off, has to be the extra interest I paid them. So we're going to find that difference here. Total payments, take away current balance, the loan amount. And so this one right here would be total interest. Similar to the calculation we made above, same process, different number. And $139,851.62. Double check you typed it right. 139,851.62. Looks good. All right. Analyzing the refinance. Notice that if you refinance, you are going to be making payments on your home for another 30 years. And I mentioned this earlier, that's an additional 10 years from what our original 30-year mortgage was, right? So we had a 30-year mortgage, we're 10 years in, that means there's 20 years to go. We decide to refinance with another 30-year mortgage, so that takes us out another 10 years past when we thought we'd be done paying, but it's a lower interest rate. So now we're going 40 years total. So how much will you save each month because of your lower payment? All right, well, that's not too bad. We have this new payment we're going to make at 6% on the remaining balance over 30 years. We were paying $1,086.24 each month. So 11 just wants to know the difference. What's your difference in payments? Number 11. So let's find our old payment and then subtract our new payment. And we can see it's $360.40. Let's make sure we answered the right question. How much will you save each month because of the lower monthly payment? We're just comparing the two payments. So I will save $362.40. How much total interest will you be paying? Consider the interest you paid over the first 10 years of the loan, of your original loan, as well as the interest on your refinance. Okay, so we paid a bunch of interest so far. We have this interest that we're about to pay in for another 30 years. So we want to look at what's the total interest of both parts of this loan experience. So number 12 is in total interest, both loans. All right, so let's see, what are we going to use there? For sure, we want this one. And then we have up here the 10 years of interest from before, right? It's a good thing I have good labels. So let's double check that that's correct. We made 10 years of payments on the previous one. And we've only paid off 14,000. So the difference in those two should be this one right here. Okay, yep. So I want question number 7's result along with question number 10. Let's see what we got for the future. That there, total interest of the new 30-year loan, and then the first 10 years of interest here added on. So for my loan combination, I'm going to have a total of $255,930.64. Did I type it correctly? 255, 930, 64 looks good to me. Did I answer the right question? How much total interest will you be paying? Consider the interest you paid over the first 10 years. Got it. Of the loan, as well as the interest that's going to be accumulated on that refinance, which is this right here. And did I click on the two right numbers? Boom, boom, looks good to me. All right, now, next part is just kind of think about this whole process. Is it really worth it for you to do this particular scenario? All right, so the new 30-year loan at 6%. So there's a lot of things to think about in there. The extension of another 10 years of payments, we're paying less each month, which is kind of nice. So we have a little extra money that we get to hold on to over that time. But then there's again, that time span. We have interest to consider that would have been paid over the original loan. What if we had just kept that? Think about that total interest versus this one right here. So there's a few things to consider here. There's no best answer for this question right here. There's a lot of different possibilities. So give it your best shot. Think about this. And I look forward to seeing what you read there. Thanks. Keep up the good work.